You know what? I'm surprised it took this long. CM Punk backstage altercation kind of confirmed, AEW's Mercedes Mone fail, and Sami Zayn upset. I'm Ollie Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
CM Punk was photographed at Tuesday's episode of NXT, watching the show from behind the hard cam position. But this is potentially far more than just a guy watching some wrestling while he's out injured. It's work experience. Almost as soon as returning back home to sports entertainment in November's Survivor Series, Punk has appeared almost equally as interested in developmental as the main roster. Unlike Triple H, Punk has reportedly always heavily respected Shawn Michaels, who's the current head of NXT, and he has frequently shown up at the Performance Center to do everything from learning about production, giving feedback to young wrestlers, like don't use real glass, and even once appeared on screen in the opening segment of NXT Deadline. According to wrestle purists, this is because Punk's long-term career goal is to succeed HBK as heading up NXT. You can say many things against Punk and his various inconsistencies, but you can't say he doesn't care about nurturing new talent. From his first WWE run occasionally showing up in NXT and originally pitching the Shield, from choosing to work with guys like Darby Allin and MJF in AEW, and now back in WWE, where he's putting in time down in developmental while he's out injured. CM Punk to NXT confirmed. But it wasn't just us who were surprised to see him at Tuesday's episode, as Fightful Select is reporting many talent and personnel within NXT didn't know he was there either. Apparently, Punk kept a much lower profile than usual, and a lot of wrestlers only found out he was in attendance when they saw the photos online. But Booker T knew. Booker T knows everything. Booker T isn't just the color commentator on NXT, he also produces noises from his mouth on his own podcast called The Hall of Fame, where, in the most recent episode, Booker revealed if he saw Punk backstage at Tuesday's taping.
I did. I saw Punk.
What's funny?
Yeah. No, we'll talk about that out there.
Okay.
Uh-oh. But I almost had like a little run-in with CM Punk. You know what I mean? The internet might want to pick that up. Me and CM Punk almost got into it at NXT this week. Yeah, so.
Okay, well, you'll tell me more later?
We'll talk about it later. I don't want to put it out there because they're going to pick it up and, run with it. But yeah, I'll talk to you about that off there.
It's important to note there that Booker T did not want to put this out there, which he has managed by posting that specific clip on his own YouTube channel, Reality of Wrestling, with the title, CM Punk and Booker T almost get into it at WWE NXT tapings. Shucky ducky, quack quack. So why would Booker and Punk have the beef? Booker has a lot of takes on his podcast these days, and it's difficult to know which ones he actually believes and which ones are just him reacting to a news story in a controversial, I'm just working you marks, old school manner. Some include claiming LA Knight has a bad attitude backstage, trying to start a work-shoot feud with Corey Graves in 2018, who had just replaced him on Raw commentary, for the benefit of no one, and once saying CM Punk's AEW debut was no good because all he did was speak about WWE and ice cream bars. Says to me he didn't really watch the promo. But he also said, just over a month before Punk returned to WWE, CM Punk didn't just leave WWE, he got fired from WWE. Debatable. He didn't just leave AEW, he got fired with cause from AEW. What value does a person like that bring to your company? His better wrestling days are behind. So perhaps that's what Booker and Punk got into this week. But also, probably not, because they've already seemingly made up over that when Booker changed his tune in December, saying on his podcast Punk had been very refreshing coming down to NXT, where they had actually already spoken to each other, and Punk brought up Booker's changing opinions. I ran into CM Punk in catering. I was sitting there talking to Jeremy Borash. I walked up to CM Punk and said, CM Punk, "What up, man?" He stands up and he goes, "What's up, man? You flip-flopper." It was very cool. I can't say anything bad about him. I know people wish I would say something bad about CM Punk. I ain't kissing ass or anything either. It just seemed like he was in a calm space. Like the Graves situation from 2018, this feels similar to how Booker occasionally likes to play up an exaggerated beef for the sheer thrill of working us fans. That certainly seems to be the case in his YouTube clips comment section, where his Reality of Wrestling channel has replied, "Shh, secret, keeping a secret face emoji." There's someone comparing it to the worked Corey feud. What do you think is going on with Booker and Punk? Let me know in the comments, where I'll be replying to people from out almost getting into it. Bear all this in mind for our next story, which probably doesn't just require a pinch of salt. You might as well lay it out in lines and snort it. Because also, according to Booker T on his Hall of Fame podcast, Sami Zayn was upset following this week's episode of Raw. Zayn won the gauntlet match to be named the #1 contender to Gunther's Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 40, where he overcame dastardly heels Bronson Reed and Shinsuke Nakamura, but also, problematically for Zayn, an underdog potentially even more underdoggy than him, Chad Gable. WWE had done such an effective job of building Gable's chase for the IC title, many fans found themselves more invested in Chad winning than the usually fan favourite Zayn. And according to Booker T, who was sat next to him on the plane afterwards, the online reaction really affected Sami. He was so literally upset about the online heat that he got from the fans. He's like, "Man, I thought the fans loved me, and then next thing you know, I see all this stuff." He still, like I said, was feeling that he let someone down, just because the fans didn't think the match was as good as I thought it was. We can blame Booker T for many things, but one thing he can't be blamed for is the death of WCW. How's that for a hard segue? So who is? Here's a clip from our brand new video going live tomorrow. Who really killed WCW?
For the last 2 decades, everyone has had their say in who really killed WCW. Was it Hulk Hogan and his creative control? Was it Eric Bischoff and his lack of adaptability? Was it Vince Russo and his terrible booking choices that drove viewers away? Or was it someone else? In order to figure this out, we need to take it right back to the beginning and go through until the very end. I'm Luke Owen, and who really killed WCW?
Thank you so much to everyone who's been watching our new Saturday videos like that. They take a lot of work, but we're all so proud of them. Remember to subscribe and enable notifications to always on to know when that goes live first. And remember, we've still got a SmackDown review. It's just over on the WrestleTalk podcast channel, so subscribe over there to watch that as well. In the last several weeks, AEW has put on one of the best pay-per-views of all time with the Sting retirement-focused Revolution. They put on probably the match of the year with Will Ospreay versus Takeshita, and they've assembled what might be the greatest in-ring roster of all time, with the addition of the aforementioned Ospreay and debuting Kazuchika Okada as a heel. Continuing the momentum, Wednesday's episode of Dynamite was themed around another huge signing. WWE's former Sasha Banks, now called Mercedes Mone. And all that excitement has paid off, with AEW ratings staying completely flat. Like, AJ Styles thinks the Earth is rounder than AEW's ratings. Despite drawing a very decent 9,500 fans to Boston's TD Garden on Wednesday, the episode was only watched by 801,000 people on TV, with a .27 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic, which Dave Meltzer has called obviously disappointing. The demo is the exact same figure the show did the previous week, and is tied for the third lowest 18 to 49 number this year. Big business, more like the exact same level of business, am I right? But who cares about traditional TV? It's dying. It's all about online views now. Far more fans are gonna see it there. That's the true indicator of modern success. But just one more thing. Mone's AEW debut clip on their YouTube channel has done 720,000 views, which is by far the most watched upload from that episode, but nowhere near the breakout numbers you'd expect. For comparison, Okada's debut clip the week before is currently at a similar 698,000, but Adam Copeland's AEW debut video 5 months ago pulled in 6.3 million views. Sting and Hook clips have done the best views for AEW's YouTube channel in 2024 so far, with the Samoa Joe vs Hook match currently at 1.1 million, but to be fair, most of those are me on my lunch break. The disappointing number could be explained by Mone not having the level of mainstream star appeal some vocal parts of Twitter claim she does, and/or AEW's presentation of her debut was a failure. AEW decided to copy and paste their CM Punk first dance booking for Mercedes by all but confirming she'd debut at the show. With Punk, the show was booked in Chicago. That was your clue. For Mone, it was booked in her hometown of Boston and called a Big Business, heavily referencing her gimmick. But despite a strong lead-in from the preceding Big Bang Theory, only 70,000 more viewers watched the opening quarter hour compared to the previous week, which is where Mercedes debuted. It implies AEW's strategy of not explicitly telling fans Mone would be debuting at the start of this episode had failed, as more might have tuned in as the show started. Following Mone's debut, despite a very strong card, the rest of the episode heavily declined as it went on, ending with just 627,000 viewers for the Riho vs Willow Nightingale main event. Which makes sense, because while that was a really fun match, that feud has only been presented as a mid-card side quest story. AEW's presumed intention was that viewers would stick around, because Mone had teased she'd involve herself in the main event, but that obviously didn't work out either. Mone's debut, with a different name to her WWE character and an absence that's undermined by also having wrestled for New Japan in her 2 years away, was clearly nowhere near the level of CM Punk returning to wrestling for the first time in 7 years. Fightful is reporting Mone has been signed with AEW for over 2 months now and for a multi-year deal. So you can get used to her on AEW TV, but don't get used to The Rock on WWE, because he's going to leave the promotion after WrestleMania. Watch the WrestleTalk news on the left to learn more.